Do y'all think that the better team won, or was this just a bad game?
They got a cloud hanging over their head.
You execute when you're supposed to execute, and we didn't do that. They were the better team in that game.
Well, the rest of the season's been crazy, so why should Conference Championship Weekend and Selection Sunday be any different, right? So we're going to rehash a wild and crazy SEC championship, talk about the final CFP rankings, subsequent bracket and playoff games, and interview a good friend of the show, Porter Hayes, with the Hog Talk podcast. Podcast covers all things related to Arkansas sports, and also delve into his Clemson fandom as they managed to sneak into the playoffs as well. So can't wait to talk to him about all that. But before we get into it, you know how a good running back always gives credit to the offensive line? Well, this show would not be what it is if it wasn't for these two. First off, Jesse, how's it going?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything's okay. We'll get into it. It was kind of nice, despite the fact that Sunday was a Sunday morning coming down, but Saturday was nice to not be
Not
worried,
be stressing.
like not have any stress, just be living. Unlike what I'm sure you felt.
Yeah, I was definitely stressed for many reasons, not just the gameplay, but obviously the condition of our players and many other things. So, Matt, what's going on with you, my friend?
I can't complain. We made it in the playoff. We got a chance. Chip in a chair, as my old buddy Charlie would say.
That's right.
I'm not real thrilled about it, and we'll discuss here in a second about the draw that we managed to get.
You're not real thrilled.
I'm not real thrilled. I'll be frank. Let me rephrase that. I am particularly happy about one thing, but I'm kind of ticked about something else, and we'll discuss later. But
I think the thing that you're happy about and the thing that Jesse's unhappy about might be the same thing, but I could be wrong. So
maybe we'll have to wait and see.
anyways, let's go ahead and talk about that SEC championship.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
All right, Georgia versus Texas. Georgia won this one. Was it 22-19? Oddly enough, I forgot to write down the score there, but I'm pretty sure it was 22-19. And nobody got the point because nobody picked Georgia. All three of us picked Texas.
We didn't believe.
Actually, if we're being honest, Cody, our guest on the show, is the only one who got it right. So kudos to him. He's actually been blowing up our social media. Not him, but people have been blowing it up because they're so impressed with his picking ability and assessment of the game. So props to Cody for that. So, but yeah, lackluster first half for both teams, if we're being real honest here. And then as the half ended, Carson Beck gets injured. Last play of the first half, goes to make a throw and it gets hit with his arm. Not really sure what happened in the moment. We weren't sure what happened. Obviously, there was a lot of attention on him on the ground. There was like 10 people around him. It was like, he was like in a coma or something. I was like, my gosh, did something else happen? But yeah, I mean, I understand the concern for sure. But then obviously, he couldn't return. Redshirt sophomore Gunnar Stockton comes in, and the team and the fans just rallied behind him. And the team talked about that in halftime as they were coming out. They just wanted to tell him, "Look, just play. Don't be nervous. We got your back." So that was the mentality going into it. Everybody trying to do their part to step up in the star quarterback's absence. I will give Mike Bobo some credit on this one. Look, I have been very harsh on Mike Bobo. And
No.
rightly so in many instances, but he called a game to really help Gunnar Stockton in this one, to help him gain confidence. A lot of little dump off passes, quick hits, plays designed where if you want to do a quick check down, he could. So I really appreciated that because we really needed that for his confidence. So another story, Brett Thorson, the punter, got injured trying to make a tackle in the third quarter here. Unfortunately, has since come out that he is out for the season, so no more. He's not there anymore. if there is a silver lining, it's the fact that the number one punter from the 2024 recruiting cycle is on Georgia's team, Drew Miller. So he'll be taking his place. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Yeah, at Texas, they missed a couple of field goals as well. That helped us out greatly. So that was nice for momentum. And so, just talking about the attrition and how different positions, are affected. Beck was the holder, and then obviously he's hurt. Brett Thorson, the punter, was the backup holder. So Gunnar Stockton, the backup quarterback who's come in the game, is also going to be holding for field goal attempts in this game. So just layer upon layer of just wildness. Early in the fourth, speaking of wildness, there was a fake punt, direct snap to Drew Bobo, the backup center, who flipped it to Arian Smith, who picked up the first down on the drive. That was honestly really important in this game. It ate up about 9 minutes, 22 seconds. So huge, where we're trying to, obviously we don't have our star quarterback in. We're really just trying to eat clock and get what points that we can. On that same drive, Arian Smith with a big play, falling on a fumble at the end of that drive to keep possession and get the field goal to go up 16-13. Another player I want to shout out, and this one is Dalen Everett. 2 big interceptions for the Dogs. Unfortunately, weren't able to cash in points off of them, but at least we were able to kind of, again, control the possession there and prevent them from scoring. Gunnar Stockton, his only real mistake of this game was later on the interception where it looked like he was maybe trying to throw the ball out of bounds and just didn't throw it far enough. There was, nobody really over there to throw it to. So they were able to intercept. Texas had another opportunity at the end of regulation and was able to tie this game up 16-all. So overtime once again for Georgia. It's like if 8 overtimes against Tech wasn't enough, here we go again. So it was like, what is going on here? So we were able to hold Texas to a field goal on their first possession. And then on the Dogs' first possession, tight end Oscar Delp with a couple really huge catches and yards after the catch to really help us out there. So that was really awesome on his part. And then drama, utter drama, as if we hadn't had enough drama so far. Gunnar Stockton takes off up the middle, trying to score a touchdown in dramatic fashion, then gets absolutely destroyed by Makuba. His helmet flies off, so he has to sit a play, obviously.
The slow-mo of his face. I mean,
my
did y'all
gosh.
watch his face?
Mm-hmm.
I audibly gasped because when he popped up, I was like, there's no way he's okay. They showed that, and he's just like,
yeah. Well,
it was awful.
Real time, it's just like 2 locomotives with no slowdown at all, just hitting each other. It was just insane.
I mean, they showed more concern when Carson Beck elbows got hurt, and I'm like, this young man,
this dude,
just had
he got
rocked. Scrambled.
He got rocked.
Yeah. So obviously his helmet flies off. He's got to sit a play. So in comes Carson Beck, who can't even hardly lift his throwing arm. And then on top of this, I know he's just like, I'm like, what is going on? Do we not have anybody else who can hand the ball off? I mean, anybody, or run the Wildcat. I don't know, but and then Chaz Chambliss, a linebacker, lines up as fullback. They hand it off, and then he, attempts to help make a hole. The O-line makes just enough of a hole for ETN to run in the winning touchdown and a wild finish to this one. So a real quick note, just in the 2 games against Texas this year, the only 2 Georgia players to score points are Trevor Etienne and Peyton Woodring, the kicker. That's it. That's the only people who have scored points against Texas. But hey, it's enough. So
still 2-0 against them. So
there you go.
With all the injuries and stuff, I think winning this game and getting this first round bye was absolutely necessary. I mean, obviously the physical and mental toll been brutal. And so they'll enjoy those. I think it's like, I don't know, 24, 25 days to recover. However many days, it's 20 plus days to recover, so that we are in desperate need of that. Also, with Beck out for who knows how long, we really don't know at this point, and they're keeping it very coy, as understandable. With that UCL issue in his elbow, I wonder also how much of a must-win this game became for Georgia as well, because look what happened last year with FSU when Jordan Travis went out, and the committee was just like, "You don't have your starting quarterback. Sorry, we're just gonna throw you to the wayside." So, who knows? I think this became a must-win for Georgia after that happened as well. So, anyways, that's my assessment of the game. Pretty wild, pretty thankful, and I think necessary for the Dogs to get that win. Jesse, let's go with you first. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this one was nuts. I mean, after watching Georgia play against Georgia Tech, and you're seeing overtimes, and you're seeing, again, I'm going to say it again, attrition. You're just seeing people just go down, and you're like, holy cannoli, Carson Beck just went down. And it's not that he's been Georgia's savior throughout the season.
Right.
Quite the opposite for the first half of the season. But I was like, this is done, this is over. And then you get Stockton to come in, and I mean, Texas wasn't prepared for him.
That first drive of the second half was huge.
It was huge. And
That's a tradition in the SEC championship, though. How many times have we seen a backup come in due to an injury from QB1?
Yep.
Like
usually we're on the bad end of those.
I still have nightmares of Rohan Davey coming into the SEC championship in 2001. So I mean, that's on brand for the SEC championship. Go ahead, Jess.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It was wild to see, and kudos to him for keeping his composure. Right? I mean, his poor mom, they keep showing his mom in the stands.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine how much she wanted to puke, right? Like you're just seeing your kid get put in what is an amazing situation because he's getting to show his talent, but also the worst, because if it doesn't go well, everyone's going to be like, well, if we had Carson Beck, if we had
And the poor
Carson
guy,
Beck.
he really hasn't had a chance to play much this year because unfortunately Georgia
any SEC against any SEC
right.
team.
Because Georgia has made games way more close than they should be. So he hasn't got a chance to play very much.
Didn't play a down against another SEC team, goes in the SEC championship. That's nuts. I mean, good for him. He's from the state of Georgia. So for him to get to go into that game, I think was really huge. So that was amazing. Now, on the Texas side, I think, and we saw it throughout the whole game, I think Texas did a hell of a job of hurting themselves. I mean, truly, it's like they did everything they could to make sure they didn't win this game. Quinn Ewers was fine. He had some good passes. He was managing the game decently, but the offense was not able to convert when they needed to. They were getting in the red zone. They would have some good plays, and then they could not convert. They would be explosive, and then they stuttered out. And you can't do that. I mean, truly, you cannot do that. You have got to follow through when you get to the red zone. It's hard enough to get to the red zone against a Georgia defense. When you get there, you got to make it count. And then when you miss field goals, it's another thing, which brings me to special teams, because special teams was not very special at all. They were terrible. And so, I mean, oh my gosh, there's things happening on my computer. There's jingle bells on my computer, apparently. But special teams,
the season.
Right? They really were almost the deciding factor of, if not the deciding factor of Texas losing this football game.
No, I'd argue that they were, especially that fake punt call.
Oh, the fake punt call.
By the way, Drew Bobo has a better completion percentage than his father. 100% of his passes, actually.
Love that for him.
But I think that's going to be a focus for Texas. They're going to go into the CFP, and they're going to have to get special teams together. They're going to have to make sure that their offense is converting. And then the other thing is, they had so many mistakes. Okay. They had so many penalties, 11 flags for 94 yards. That is very undisciplined.
Mm-hmm.
That is very sloppy. And a couple of those were really big moments where they got flags and they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, you had the one that was a 37-yard field goal that was taken off the board because of a false start.
Right. And then you missed the next one. Yep. That's 100%
you cannot
accurate.
have that. So for me, this was I don't want to call it a tune-up game because it wasn't at all, but I think this was an exposure game for Texas. They saw where they have holes and they saw that they have to clean them up, and they don't get, the liberty that UGA is going to get where they get to rest up, make sure they're getting things done. Not
Desperately
at all.
need it.
Not at all. They're going to have to go out there, and sure, they're playing Clemson. We can get to what we think about that, and they're playing at home. But to me, this was a very sloppy game by Texas. This was a game that I'm not sure what the preparation was going into it, but Georgia had the heart. They rallied behind Stockton and were able to get it done. And for them to be able to go in there and play in another overtime after coming out of 8 overtimes and having just injuries galore, I think that's very impressive. And I hope that the Georgia fans that as soon as Carson Beck went down were thrown in the towel. I hope that they were kind of eating their words a little bit and still have some hope and belief in their team, because they absolutely should.
Yeah, yeah, and the weird part was you're talking about them moving down the field and just not able to convert. I was kind of joking, especially early on in the game. It was like, well, apparently all Texas has to do to move the ball is to get it in like 3rd and 23, because they
Yeah.
were just converting those like it was going out of style. It was crazy. Matt, what were your thoughts on this one?
First off, on a personal note, I hate that this happened. I was really pulling for Texas. I hate UGA. Sorry,
I know.
Wes. And all the barking that happened Saturday night, you could hear it in the neighborhood. It was like, oh dear God, here we go again.
By the way, I was at a soccer tournament, my daughter's soccer tournament this weekend. There was a guy on the field barking, not about the Georgia game, but you can tell that that's just his MO and how he celebrates things. And he was barking like a dog at the soccer fields. And so for all the people who have to deal with that madness, I apologize on behalf of, not all of us are like that. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
I feel like that's a cry for help. Anyhow, I just anyhow, yeah. So UGA wins the game. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. That being said, UGA right now is the definition of bend don't break. It feels like every time they kind of get their back to the wall, they're going to get all the way back to it, and then they start to sling back in. There have been a number of times where this team could have rolled over and died, not to play on the dog pun, but they could have done that, and they've gone deep. I mean, they've definitely gone down into the reserves in order to find a way to get this thing done. Now, aside from the whole quarterback injury, we're all war of attrition stuff, let's talk about these what should have been turnovers. There were 4 fumbles in this game by UGA. They only lost one of them. But let's be frank here. Y'all got lucky that you didn't lose at least one more, if not 2 more. Which could have changed the complete complexion of this game.
Like I said, maybe the biggest play, I know Arian Smith had some catches, but probably the biggest play of the game for him was falling on that fumble and hustling to get there.
Yeah. So. And again, if you lose one more, I think that's a gut punch, and that gives Texas a pretty big advantage. Gutsy calling that fake punt. Texas special teams, like Jesse touched on, really needs to go back and reevaluate how they operate and start. I don't know why in the world they didn't call punt safe there, because you've got a chance to get the ball back. Why aren't you looking for that was
Kirby has a history of faking punts in that building as well,
right?
Unfortunately, for
I'm not saying,
other times.
I'm not saying it's telegraphed, but I feel like you're hedging your bets there. Let's be smart. Let's make sure that we aren't dumb. And while we're on the subject of Kirby, let's talk about Kirby for a minute, shall we, Wes?
Okay.
Kirby's post-game whining. Yeah, I said whining about the scheduling, the road woes.
He said it to Greg Sankey's face.
And he said it right in front of the commissioner of the SEC.
He did not look thrilled either.
And I don't blame him. If I was Sankey, I'd be pissed about it too. But it's it gives me that same energy Drinky throws around. I don't like it.
Oh, come on, that's nothing like Drinky.
No, you can. You're right. It's not. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but it doesn't negate the fact that it's an awful look. Georgia had 4 true road games this year. They played 2 in the Benz, 3 now. Georgia Tech or no, sorry, two in the
It-
bins. My fault. Two in the bins. One on a neutral site in Jacksonville, which is still horse apples that they get a chance to play a neutral site against their biggest rival every year. I won't get into that right here, though.
I don't like it.
It's just like, don't complain about it. You weathered the storm, and especially don't complain about it in front of the commissioner. But that's neither here nor there. My next couple questions is UGA Texas the new UGA Bama? Is that the back and forth that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of seasons? Texas has definitely set themselves up to be a force in the new and improved SEC. I put the improved in air quotes, by the way. Both games have been somewhat tight, although that first game got a little out of hand. But again, you get the idea. I just have a feeling that we're going to see both of these teams duking it out a lot more going forward. In fact, we may, if the cards play out right, we may see round 3 at the beginning of January, which would be
I hope not.
something. Because you imagine that game again on a national level at blah.
Yeah.
Like if I was a UGA fan, I would not be putting any money on that game whatsoever. Beating a team 3 times in a year,
No.
not a good chance. UGA also gets that first round bye, like we talked about. They get time to heal, but as we've seen, some teams don't do real well when you give them lots of time.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? It might have been longer, that UGA got a little bit of a break before a bowl game. Like they had to wait a long time for a bowl game, and they came out really flat at the beginning of that bowl game, if I remember correctly. And I think they lost it. I think it was when they played.
It happens in baseball every year after the wild card round.
Yeah, exactly my point. Which you get out of your routine, you get out of the grind. I don't know. I'm just asking questions here. But kudos to Georgia for winning. Texas is going to have to lick their wounds and take on Clemson and the CFP. It is what it is. Meanwhile, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, all the other teams that wanted to get to Atlanta this year didn't make it.
I'll give you, if I was not a Georgia fan, I would probably be a little bit annoyed at what Kirby said. But in big picture, looking at it big picture, this is the same thing that every coach does. Look at what Beamer was doing. Look at what Lane was doing. Every coach is going to lobby for their team and try to stick up for their team. Even when it doesn't make sense, right?
But Wes, do you really want your head coach to be in line with Beamer?
I use those as examples
the whining
to prove the point that every coach does that. They will try to paint their team in the best way possible so they can be looked upon favorably.
That's fair. If that had been hypo, I wouldn't have appreciated it either. I'd been like, we just won the SEC championship. Let's just enjoy it, and we can. I
wasn't a big fan of him doing that in the moment on the stage with the commish. If you want to complain about it, that's fine. But I also get that emotions are high. Obviously, sometimes you say things that you probably wouldn't in a more controlled environment. So I don't know.
Well, if you're getting ready to pack up your office and go to an NFL team, that's exactly the way you'd go out the door, right?
Not gonna happen. Kirby, he's got too sweet a deal.
Say it.
Yeah,
bro,
I don't know,
bro. You better believe if the friggin' Jets came out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, Kirby, here's some cash. Why don't you say goodbye?"
I'm trying to picture him on an NFL sideline, and my brain just can't process it. It just doesn't seem right.
We said the same thing about Nick when he was at LSU.
And look how it worked out for him in the NFL.
Well, that's probably why Saban hasn't made, or why Kirby hadn't made that jump.
I was gonna say, sometimes you need to learn lessons by example, not by experiencing it yourself.
Right. But we may be seeing Bill Belichick at UNC.
We might.
Let's move on. We don't need to talk about Bill Bloody Belichick, for God's sake.
I will say, I think that the bye. Obviously, I understand the point of the bye can hurt you, but in Georgia's instance, it's absolutely necessary just from a recovery standpoint. Now, we may not get Carson Beck back regardless of what that time period is. I'm thinking that his injury is probably a little more extensive and he probably won't be able to come back even with this extra time. But, since that's the case, we need that extra time to get Gunnar Stockton up to speed and get him in reps with all the ones and all that stuff and get him prepped for the Sugar Bowl. So we'll
beware of the Sugar Bowl.
The Sugar Bowl has eaten many a SEC team, including Georgia against Texas a few years ago. So, all right. So that does it for our single game from last week. Pick'em points have not changed because nobody got a point. So I still have 44. Jesse has 40, and Matt has 31. So let's get to our helmet stickers. Matt, who are your helmet sticker recipients?
I think it goes without saying, Gunnar Stockton is definitely deserving of all the helmet stickers this week. Excuse me, I very rarely have good things to say about anybody from that Cal College in Athens. But that doesn't negate the fact that Gunnar Stockton comes off the bench, steps into a really awful bright light situation, and he did what he had to do. Real recognize real, as the kids say. Really tough run in OT, took a really big wallop, set up Georgia to kind of punch that in the end zone. He definitely deserving of a helmet sticker. He probably needs a new chin strap as well.
Yeah.
Along with that, God, he got hit. Along with that, my other helmet sticker is going outside of the SEC and goes to Nolan Hauser from Clemson. 56-yard game-winning field goal in the ACC championship. And he just drilled it. And I saw it, and I was like, oh, this has got a chance. There it is. And to quote Dave Chappelle, quoting Rick James, that was cold-blooded.
Jesse, who are your helmet sticker recipients?
I mean, I have to copy Matt a little bit because Gunnar Stockton's going to get one of mine. I was just happy he could string together coherent thoughts in the post game because I fully
Me
expected Holly to be like, Gunnar, tell me things, and him be like, football, good.
Why use lot word when few word do trick?
I was like, his brain has to be untethered.
It's a soup.
It looked like Campbell's Chunky. I just but he again, he stepped into a situation that I would not want to step into, and he handled it really well. And then my other one's going to go to Mike Bobo. Coming from a Bama fan that has historically
be a headset sticker,
right? That has historically had coordinators that are so used to calling a game for a certain quarterback that they don't adjust when another one comes in, whether that be after one leaves to go to the NFL, transfers, whatever it may be. We saw that, last year with Jalen Milroe. They were not calling the offense for him. So for a coordinator to go in and in the game adjust and call a proper offense for a quarterback that is not your starter and be pretty successful with it. I'm impressed because it's very easy to be like, nope, this is the playbook we came in with. We're using this one.
right?
And a lot of them do that, but I was impressed with him.
Yep. Yeah, I could easily make it Gunnar Stockton as well, but I got to go with Dalen Everett. 2 big interceptions for Georgia. I think he was the MVP as well of the game. So obviously those were huge. Again, weren't able to cash in points off of them, but still in terms of time of possession and preventing them from scoring, huge. And then I want to flip it on the other side on Texas. Andrew Makuba, 11 tackles, 10 solo, and it seemed like every time there was a play made on defense for Texas, they were calling his name. I was just like, what is this guy? Does he play every position? So a great game for him as well. So kudos there.
By the way, we're all in agreement that hit was completely clean, right?
Yeah,
because they threw the flag and they reviewed it for targeting, which I don't have an issue with it when you call it and review it. Like it is what it is. But I felt like everybody, like at full speed, that looked like targeting.
Yeah, real time it looked terrible.
But I mean,
slow down.
That's a downhill like smackaroonie.
And
hit.
I was listening to it on the radio.
Also getting hit from almost like not behind, but from like the side on his legs, and then he was getting hit here. The way he landed, it's actually the way he landed is something that they try to prevent in the NFL. Now they try to prevent everything in the NFL now, but they typically try to prevent it because there's one specific kind of tackle where it's like, a defender kind of sliding and grabbing you by the leg. So your arm's going to go one way, your leg's going to go another way.
Yeah.
Anyways, they call it a specific tackle. He was tackled by 2 people, which made his body end up that way. Not targeting. It just sucked.
Yeah, it was just yeah. And the Georgia radio announcers even said, oh, yeah, he led with the shoulder. And obviously they're homers. So if they said it, then it was good. So, All right, so that does it for our helmet stickers. So obviously, big news is the CFP rankings. Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Here's the news.
All right, so final CFP bracket revealed, and obviously the subsequent bowl games have been scheduled as well. But real quick, let's go through the CFP rankings, the top 12, and then I want to get y'all's thoughts on that. So. Obviously, seeds 1 through 4 are the conference champions. You have number 1 seed Oregon winning the Big Ten. That doesn't even sound right, but that's what they won. You have number 2 Georgia winning the SEC. Number 3 Boise State winning the Mountain West, and then Arizona State and the 4 seed winning the Big 12.
Yeah.
If I would have said that, just a few years ago, you would have said, "Wes, go home. You're drunk." Like, what?
Yes.
I would have assumed I'd been like, oh, you're talking about softball.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. You meant softball.
Right.
You didn't mean
This
football.
is this is for a volleyball tournament, right?
Right.
Equestrian
Got
equestrian tournament.
Well,
Yeah,
and even
got
just the conference affiliation, you're like, "What are you on, Wes? What is going on?"
it.
Okay.
So, beyond the top 4, we'll talk about the rest of them, 5 through 12, and then kind of how those have been seeded. 5 is Texas, and they are slated to go against number 12 Clemson, who slid in there. Obviously, they won the ACC. They are the 5th highest ranked conference champion, so they slide into that slot there at number 12. You have number 6, Penn State is the 6th seed, playing the 11 seed SMU. You have the 8, or I'm sorry, let's go with number 7. We have the 7 seed Notre Dame hosting Indiana, and then you have the 8 seed Ohio State hosting Tennessee. Obviously, there were some names that I omitted there. One of them being Bama is the first team out, and then Miami also the second team out in these final rankings. Jesse, I got to start with you first on this one. I have not heard your thoughts about this yet, and I prefer it that way because this is live, this is for real. So, what do you got about this?
I've seen it all over the place. I know the Bama faithful have been up in arms about being left out. And I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing the Bama faithful say is strength of schedule, right? Especially as they look at a Clemson and SMU. That's kind of the argument. I am not surprised that we are out. I am not necessarily upset that we are out. I think as a Bama fan, once we lost to Vanderbilt, we knew that we needed to get, our business taken care of. We knew we needed to go forth and win. Once we lost to Tennessee, we knew we were really, 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 really going to have to take care of business. We were hanging our hat on beating Georgia. And that's something that is not necessarily going to carry you through. Now, when we beat LSU, great. When we beat Mizzou when they were ranked, great. We had that strength of schedule in the sense that we beat ranked teams. And I know there are several on this list that don't have that. However, with 2 losses, we knew we couldn't have any more. And we went in and we lost to an unranked OU team. And not just lost, got whooped.
Blanked.
Whooped. And as soon as that happened, if you thought we were getting in, you were wrong. You were wrong because there were enough teams that didn't have those losses. And to be honest with you, there was a 3-loss South Carolina team that could have beat us. Honestly, almost beat us. 1 point. So to me, yes, we have a better strength of schedule, but we knew what we needed to do in order to make it. And we didn't take care of business. We didn't do that. That's on us. There's no one else to blame. You cannot blame the committee. You cannot blame. If you wanted to make sure that we secured our spot, we beat OU. It's that simple. If we beat OU, we're in there. I don't think they leave us out. But we didn't do what we needed to do. So I'm not going to blame the committee when we can just look in the mirror. Everybody just take a good look. Now, I am very nervous at the ramifications of this. I think we're going to see a lot of people sit out. I think given that this is a Bama team that, last year was in the 4-team playoff, much to most people's chagrin, besides ours. I think we're going to see a lot of transfers. I do. I think this is a 3-loss Bama team. This is a team that didn't make an expanded playoff, which is very frustrating. We lost 2 unranked teams this season. Very frustrating, despite the fact that we may have a Heisman contender quarterback and an incredible receiver. I would be shocked if Ryan Williams is wearing a Crimson Tide uniform next season. I really would. And that sucks to say. And I think everybody expected this like big fall off immediately after, Saban left, like this season. I think that big fall off, while 3 losses seems like a big fall off, I think it's coming. I think it might be next season. And that sucks.
That's fair, especially with the potential for transfers. I get it.
Exactly. We can throw NIL money at it. We can throw, the profit sharing at it, and I'm sure we will. But every other team's going to do that too. And as we'll talk about a little bit in our interview with Porter, but the committee, and again, not to say that they're wrong for doing this, but they have shown that you can go to an SMU, play a lesser schedule, not get hurt necessarily because you're not playing huge, big dudes, and you can still make it to a college football playoff and get your name in the media. Why would you not do that? Why would you risk your body and your ability to be a starter at a huge school like in Alabama when you can get NIL money at an SMU? You can go to a college football playoff and you can play an easier schedule.
Yeah. Well, and had SMU gotten blown out, as it looked like they were going to, had they gotten blown out, I think we would be having a completely different conversation right now, and Bama would be in that 11 seed spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people would have written SMU off and say, well, they've shown us who they are. So
yeah, and we can get into, the automatic, bids for the conference champs, and that's fine. We could have put ourselves in a position to go to a conference championship, and we didn't do it.
Yeah. Matt, what's your reaction to the reveal of the final CFP rankings?
All right. So I still take umbrage with the auto conference champ thing. I think if you really want to set this up, it needs to be the top 4 and be done. Which means if I did it right and I sent this to y'all and I've put it on my social media stuff, but I really think this is what it should have been. It should have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State 1 through 4 is what it should be. They should get that first round bye. I think that, and I know that we've bashed Penn State, whatever, but I think Oregon, Georgia, Texas are the 3 best teams in the 12. As of right now, I think everybody agrees with that statement. I don't see how Texas can be the SEC runner-up and not be in that top 4. It just doesn't make sense to me. I also think that this is a situation where we have to be very careful about how we look at, strength of schedule, out of conference, like all the Bama fans that have, and Jesse, I'm worried you're going to be accused of being an ESPN plant for agreeing, because that God knows they went after Kirk Herbstreit last year with FSU. So I feel like the problem with the 12 team and the problem with the way they've got it structured is it makes it to where that strength of schedule, it's kind of, I don't want to say diluted, but it messes with it. You know what I mean? It's a situation where, a 3-loss Bama team, is that really worse than a 2-loss SMU team? especially when SMU's in the ACC. They didn't really play anybody from the ACC for the most part. Like Saban, I think, had a little bit of a point, a very small kernel of a point, when it came to that concept of we got to look at strength of schedule a little bit. Now, I think SMU deserved to be in. Jesse made the points. I agree 100% with her. SMU should have been in this thing. But here's the thing. I don't think if you're doing this like you're supposed to and you go with the top 12 teams, yeah, Clemson won the ACC, but do you really think Clemson's one of the best 12 teams in the nation? I know they just took out SMU, but I just don't feel like, I don't know. It's not a perfect system. I feel like what you need to do is you need to expand it. Just go ahead and knock it out. Take a game off of the regular season. The SEC can cut one of those cupcakes. That'll take care of those people that are complaining about that. And then we expand it to 16 or 18 or however many you need to. That way we don't have to worry about this again. Maybe we'll be arguing, well maybe a 3-loss Carolina team should be in over whatever. It is what it is. This is the field. This is what we've got. Now, let's get into what I really have an issue with. I don't understand how anybody can look at a 2-loss Ohio State and a 2-loss Tennessee and tell me that Ohio State deserves to host that game. I just don't get it. When you look at the losses that these two teams have, Tennessee lost to Georgia. Okay, they're number 2 in the nation. They just won the SEC. They're there. Okay, fine. And then we had a really bad loss, not super bad, but a pretty rough loss to Arkansas.
That was on the road too, right?
And that was on the road, and they were doing, Arkansas was looking like they had just turned a corner, so it looked really good. It wasn't the worst loss in the world, is what I'm trying to say. Compare that to Ohio State. And if you're an Ohio State fan, if you want to come for me in the comments, my @ is @thefortson on Twitter. By all means, blast me up, because I'm telling you right now, Ohio State should not be hosting this ball game, and I stand by that.
I agree with you.
They lost to, I think it was Oregon, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they lost to Oregon by I think like 4 or maybe 6. It was pretty close.
It was that last minute. Yeah.
They lost close. Okay, fine, whatever. That sounds great. Kudos to Oregon. Let's move on. But then you lose at home to a mid-tier Michigan team when you were supposed to nuke them by 3 scores.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But here's the thing.
And commit assault and battery.
Well, we won't get into all that. Columbus finest with their mace attack. Here's the thing, though. I am completely okay playing Ohio State. I'm not real thrilled about this because I feel like the whole universe is missing out on an opportunity to see Neyland at night in the winter hosting a playoff game. That place would be friggin' unhinged.
Oh, it would be nuts.
Neyland at night's already kind of a different animal, but this place for a playoff game? Are you serious? I feel like they took away something. Playoffs. I feel like they took away something that would have been really magical, and it got taken away. And because of branding, I said what I said. I had 10 toes in when I said it. I think Ohio State got the benefit of the doubt here because they're a blue blood. I think that's what it was. But here's the thing. Here's why I'm okay playing Ohio State, and we'll get into a little bit more of this a little bit later when we start talking about these games in detail. Ohio State is 2-13 versus the SEC in its history. 2-13 in its history. 2-13, kids. That's awful. Ryan Day is 0-3 against the SEC as the head coach at OSU. So that being said, let's get after it. I like Tennessee's chances in this game. Now, I think they run into a buzzsaw against Oregon, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But all in all, it is what it is. I am really excited about some of these matchups, though. I think that Clemson-Texas game is going to be nuts. I can't wait to see if SMU can actually take the boots to Penn State. I'm still trying to figure out what's going to go on with Indiana-Notre Dame. I hope to God that if it is Notre Dame that gets into the quarterfinals, I hope Georgia beats them by 4 scores.
I mean, I'm sorry, but regardless of who wins out of Indiana and Notre Dame, I think Georgia will beat them by 4 scores.
I think you're right. I just don't think.
We'll see.
That matchup right there, and sure, it's easy for me to criticize from outside the playoff. Whatever.
I'm just glad that Georgia, Texas are on opposite ends of the bracket of each other right now, because nobody wants to see that right off the bat again. Sure, if it
I don't know. I have a hard time imagining anybody wouldn't watch that game. I think everybody.
I know,
would be
but I
watching
mean,
that
like
game.
right off the bat, if it works out for them to meet later on, fine. But I like right away, we just saw it. I don't know, but maybe that's just me. But yeah,
I have not watched enough of Arizona State. I'm very interested to see how they do against either Clemson or Texas because I don't know enough about them. Same with Boise State. Boise State does have some talent on that football team though. They've got
Yeah.
is it a running back?
They got a Heisman winner
yeah.
on that
Yeah.
in their
Probably,
backfield.
well,
Which if they play Penn State,
Oh.
that might get nasty.
Might
Yeah.
get fun. I mean, for me, for the first time in a long time, it's gonna be very relaxing.
and you're in a bowl game, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
5 of our players are gonna play. Fine.
2.5.
Like, great. ReliaQuest. I don't even know what they do.
Just
Like,
don't do what Florida State did last year. So
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see lots of that. But let's go ahead and talk about that, Wes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so with all that said, obviously the bowls have been scheduled and we have them all right here. We're not going to make our picks for them right now, but I did just want to lay them out there just so everybody knows. And this is just SEC teams, obviously. The first one's Tulane versus Florida in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. That's Friday, December the 20th at 3:30 on ESPN from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Raymond
By the way-
James actually gets 2 games this year from this. Anyways, what?
Florida made
They made a bowl. They
I
did.
think they should be.
Yeah.
Yes, a round of applause from all 3 of us for that. Well done, Sunshine Billy.
I mean,
You've
do
done a
y'all
good
remember
job.
the show that we had early in the season, where we had our Florida guest on, and we were basically asking him, about Napier and is this the end for Napier? Because we had all basically, accepted the fact that this was the beginning of the end for Napier at Florida. And then they make a bowl game, and this really
Kirby, you want to complain about schedules and all.
Yeah.
Florida
that was a tough one.
with a coach that probably had a go bag packed.
Probably.
I mean, honestly.
He had one of those rent-a units out in his yard with all his
He
really
had a
important
pod,
stuff in
yes.
it. A pod just ready to go in case
Just
it
sitting in his
came
front
down.
yard.
But hey, kudos to him, man. Kudos
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah, yeah.
Then number 12 Clemson at number 5 Texas, as we mentioned, hosting a playoff game, the college football playoff first round game. This is Saturday, December the 21st, 4 p.m. on TNT/Max. So if you're a Max subscriber, you don't even have to look. You can just go right to your app and bam, there it is. So yeah, that's interesting. Also, again, I know
Who's the crew that calls that?
I don't know. I would imagine they'd have to
Tony-
recruit someone, right? They don't,
Tony Soprano and Eddard Stark.
I was going to say, do they have anybody who is like a college football? I don't know.
They
I
have-
mean, I think
they
they
have-
do for basketball, for NBA.
There we go. We'll get some basketball
I'm fine if
announcers out there.
Shaq and Charles Barkley want to call that.
Oh, that'd be so
I'm
good.
here for it.
For a playoff game. How did the
Oh my
world
God.
watching? Oh
Yes.
man.
They'll probably get one of the backup crews for ESPN or something. Surely they have something figured out.
I'm sure they for sure, especially for something as high profile as that. And I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again because it's so awesome. Playoffs start before Christmas, run till January the 20th. It's a full month of just goodness,
Love it.
right?
Love it.
Next, number 9 Tennessee at Ohio State. Number 8 Ohio State. Another first round college football playoff game. That is on December the 21st as well. That's the 8 o'clock game, and that's on ABC.
Ooh, guys, it's going to be cold. Tennessee
Yeah.
can't play in the cold. Guys,
Hey, just
they're in
wait.
the mountains, for God's sake.
Yeah, well, believe me, we're going to hear all kinds of. Penn State is
They're-
hosting SMU. They're going to be talking about that for that game too.
Because it doesn't
I'm
get
sure.
cold in Dallas. Come on.
Yeah, what you know the narrative. Anyways, so that'll be an interesting one to
Also,
watch.
LOL, just like a blanket statement.
Yeah.
All of these young men are not from the area in which they play.
It's a
That's
great
good
point.
Good
All right,
point.
let's look at
It's a good point. She's got a
Josh
point.
Allen is from what, California, and played at Wyoming and plays in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Right.
I think these young men can adjust.
That's true. They'll be fine.
It'd be different if they were going to, like, Colorado or something like that. That
The
elevation
area.
thing could become a problem, but
And they're
no,
young. They
no.
don't feel the cold. So.
no,
Anyways,
must be nice.
next is Oklahoma 6-6. They are bowl eligible versus Navy
You're
8-3.
welcome.
This is the Lockheed
Ooh.
Martin Armed Forces Bowl,
Ooh.
Friday, December the 27th at noon on ESPN from M&G Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas. So
You.
interested to see how they fight against Navy on that one. Georgia Tech versus Vanderbilt in the Birmingham Bowl.
That'll be a good one. I'm excited to see those two quarterbacks. If
Me
both
too.
indeed play.
It's gonna be
fun.
great.
Both of those teams had really good seasons, and I feel like the Birmingham Bowl is just not. It's not Jimmy my jams, Like it's not doing it for me. Like I feel like that should be the Liberty Bowl, or that should be I don't know, just the Birmingham Bowl.
I don't know. The Birmingham Bowl is not exciting. I'm sorry.
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
Pretty rough.
What's the swag for the Birmingham Bowl? Is it like
No.
city?
You get tickets to go to a museum about steel.
There you go. That one's Friday, December the 27th at 3:30 from Protective Stadium in Birmingham, Alabama.
Hold
Next.
on.
Did you look it up?
I'm looking up.
Isn't that the new stadium that they built for when UAB came back?
Was it?
I know they constructed a new stadium. It's not the same old stadium there in Birmingham.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would assume that's where it's.
It's UAB Stadium.
Yeah.
Seats 47,000. So
I was going to say, it seemed like a
That's where
pretty.
They have the Magic City Classic too, which is like it draws a crowd. But
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what the swag is.
At least they get a good
I
facility
told
to
you.
play in.
Yeah, they get tickets to a museum about steel production.
Or
Yeah.
maybe there's some good what is that stuff called when you're in like the mountains and you're doing a little like harness thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Like a zip line?
Zip line. There's some fun zip lines in Birmingham.
Oh God, Wes, move on. Let's go. God,
I'm just
no.
picturing a bunch of college players walking around a museum with those headphones, that have the self-guided or the tour that's in your headphones. Yeah, push this button when you're here. Yeah, that'll be great. Next is Texas Tech versus Arkansas, the AutoZone Liberty. There's the Liberty Bowl, Matt. That's also Friday, the 27th of December at 7 p.m. on ESPN from Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee.
See, Carson Beck, I don't think he would enjoy the AutoZone Bowl because I don't know that they carry stuff for Lamborghinis at AutoZone.
That's true.
Doubtful.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's nothing in AutoZone that would fit a Lamborghini. Next is Texas A&M versus USC, the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, Friday the 27th at 10. This is at 10:30, so if you want to stay up, go for it. From Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, not too bad local time, I suppose. But
Wes, I saw the chuckle. Do you want to tell everybody why in the world I just shook my head? You know why.
Oh, I saw it. What's going on?
No, go ahead and make a guess.
I don't know.
The SRS
the
Distribution
SRS,
Las
yeah.
Vegas Bowl. Where do they come up with these sponsors? Keep going.
Oh yeah, all of them are just. It's
awful.
a mouthful.
It's just a Liberty Bowl. Done.
Yeah. Oh well, dude, they are going to absolutely accept that sponsorship money, so they don't care. They'll have a 20-word long title if they have to.
It's outrageous what they've done to my sport. Anyway, go ahead.
Iowa versus Missouri, number 19 Missouri, in the TransPerfect Music City Bowl, Monday, December the 30th at 2:30 on ESPN from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. So interested to see that both of those teams very similar colors too, the black and yellow. So
the Steelers need to just show up and set up a booth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Number 11.
By the way, I'm going on record as saying go Hawkeyes. Go ahead, Wes.
Go Hawkeyes. Yeah. Typically not a whole lot of offense in those games. We'll see. All right, number 11, Alabama versus Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl, Tuesday, December the 31st at noon on ESPN from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. So, yeah. Next,
Jesse, when was the last time Bama played in a non-premier bowl game? Do you remember?
2008.
I was going to say it would have to be like Saban's first year-ish.
Yeah, his
around that
first one
time.
was 2007.
Yikes.
We made a bowl game, but not a great one. I would say 2008-ish.
Yeah.
Let
Was it
me
2009?
let me look at the Google machine for you, Jesse. Let's take a second to look and see. Oh, okay. Rose Bowl, Rose Bowl, Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, CFP National Game, Sugar Bowl, Citrus Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl, Sugar Bowl. Give me a minute. I'm getting here we go. 2011, the Capital One Bowl against
who?
Michigan State.
Oh yeah, we trounced
Yeah.
Yep.
Prior to that, the other non-premier bowl would be the Independence Bowl in 2007 against the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That was my.
it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, yeah. All right. Next is number 15, South Carolina versus number 20, Illinois. This is the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Tuesday, December 31st at 3 p.m. from Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. And if you're Beamer,
it's so awful.
Oh yeah,
It's
Why is it awful? That bowl's that stadium's awful.
It's just a terrible stadium, and also
didn't Tennessee have a bowl game?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And citrus.
Yeah, I have no issue with the citrus.
Cheez-Its and citrus.
Cheez-Its. Like that's not two things that can go together. But I don't have an issue with that. But I will admit that stadium's not good.
If you're Beamer and you happen to win, though, at least a Cheez-It bath is a lot better than a mayonnaise bath.
I love Cheez-It.
So,
where is the
messy.
Duke's Mayo Bowl? Is that outside of our? I guess it's.
I think probably. Yeah, this is just SEC teams, so it's got to be somebody else. I'd imagine. Who's next? Oh yeah, Baylor versus LSU. This is the Kinder's Texas Bowl.
Is that Kinder's like the chocolate?
I don't know. I just saw the title. I didn't look to see who.
If it's like the chocolate bar, that's delicious.
Nice. That would be some really good swag.
Kinder's is wait for it.
Texas Bowl. Search that.
Yes, I'm looking.
It's gonna be like some weird logistics.
I think it's seasoning.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, that could be potentially good swag too. But that is Tuesday, December the 31st at 3:30 from NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. So, and then next is TBD, the winner of Indiana versus Notre Dame, as we mentioned. The winner of that game will be versus number 2 Georgia in the college football playoff quarterfinal at the All-State Sugar Bowl, and that is Wednesday, January the 1st, 2025, which doesn't even sound like a real number, at 8:45 p.m. on ESPN from Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. So interested to see how that one shakes out and who the opponent will be. And then the final game, Duke versus number 14 Ole Miss, Thursday, January the 2nd, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN from Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida. So that does it for all the bowls. Obviously, there will be more playoff games after that, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, next show we will do our bowl preview show with our picks and stuff like that. So we were privileged to be joined by Porter Hayes of the Hog Talk podcast, and so without wasting any more of anyone's time, let's go ahead and get into that. Well, we are so excited to have Porter back on the show. He's a host on the Hog Talk podcast, a podcast about all things related to Arkansas sports, and he's also a proud Clemson fan. So we're excited to get into that a little bit tonight as well. So Clemson, of course, sliding into that 12th seed spot of the playoffs, being the fifth highest
hard-earned
ranked
spot. Wes, call it what it is.
I mean they are the 5th highest ranked conference champion. So that is the criteria, and there they are. So Porter, it's great to have you on the show once again. How's it going?
Going really good. Hey, we clocked in and worked overtime to get that. So, it's one of them things that you take what you can get when it comes to the CFP playoff.
Absolutely, 100%. So let's start with your Arkansas reporter hat first. And so obviously we watched Arkansas's season unfold this year. Can you give an assessment of Arkansas's season and how it went this year?
You know the meme where the girl's on the swing set and the fire's behind her. From and this is serious as day on my take of it. They're saying everything's fine. We're going to be fine. And then you have 20 players leave the portal today.
Yep,
You
I did
have
see that.
some that was saying, "Oh, I'll red shirt." You even had a guy that was given a red shirt. He said, "Don't leave on me." Now he is already crystal balled to Ole Miss. One, we have a huge problem. We could say everybody does it with this tampering thing, whether it be coaches, players, because when we get into the CFP talk, I really want to break down, Barry Odom. How come he plays in the conference championship game and then the next day he's already at Purdue? How does that happen? So
Right.
we're seeing it on both ends, but the Arkansas side is just, I've been very vocal on, chain of command. You've given Sam Pittman so many chances. You lost Barry Odom, Kendall Briles. You bring in Bobby Petrino. You're getting the same results. You're trying to put different puzzles together and you're getting the same results. And it's going to start to where Hunter Yurchek's going to have to start answering for that because he's the one that is head of this. And I talked to Adam about this last night when I said it previously. When they got John Calipari and Tyson funded the basketball team, he sat there and said, Walmart and Tyson is not going to save your football program. A week later, they're on the field. Their logos are all over the court. So that really gave a bad taste in my mouth because it's like, okay, you're saying that they're not going to come help the football program, but you don't mind blasting them on your program, on your facilities, and on your football field. So he's a businessman. He's an AD, but if you're not going to take care of your bread and butter, and especially where the state of your program is, I'm starting to look at him now. Do they need to have a change at the top? Because just his priority, he's not a fan of NIL. He's basically the AD version of Dabo. He doesn't like it. So you can only get by so much. And after the comments, and then especially giving Sam Pittman another year, you're having this go on, really starting to question, do we just need a whole foundation, whole change of direction at the University of Arkansas?
Right. That's interesting because you're talking about him bringing in all these different puzzle pieces, but they all end up being kind of the same puzzle pieces. And if that's the case, then you you have to go back to the source. So, talking about recruiting, obviously, I know there have been some victories in that. What do you think of the recruiting class as it's looking so far?
Him flipping the quarterback from UCLA to Arkansas and getting his receiver. Look, you got to give them props. They're getting some players in, but it's funny analogies. I watch too much Family Guy. The video floating around at the Oregon game where they lifted the baby up and the crowd was cheering, and then they put it down and they started booing. That is the fan base. We got this kid. Let's cheer. Hooray. The recruits go away. Portal season opens up. Now we're booing. We get this other kid to flip. Now we're cheering again and put the baby down. Now we're booing. I am now on the verge of you have to win games. You have to produce on the field for me to change my mind. I'm not looking at none of the, you can bring in 3 5-stars. You have no O-line coming into next year. You're lost everything. Who are you? The leading receiver heading into the bowl game against Texas Tech is Rashad Binion. That's your leading receiver.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and I think they're digging themselves too big of a hole. They're really, really hanging their hat on this revenue sharing like everybody else is not going to benefit for it when it's got to be spread out. And you're not going to get enough money. So you get 20 million. Now, Ohio State spent that on their football team alone. You need way more than 20 million to compete in the SEC because you're going to need 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. You're going to need 4 wide receivers. You're going to need an O-line. And then look at your defensive players. I mean, they're losing defensive players too. So it's all hands on deck when it comes to the 2025 season for the Razorbacks.
Right. Porter said, no more moral victories. We need wins.
I mean, it's almost like in a fantasy draft when you do the oh gosh, what do you call it when you pay for the draft? You have to like pay for
Oh
players.
yeah, the FAAB or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, when you do that, and it's like that's kind of what we're turning into, right? Like especially with
Oh,
revenue
it's free agent.
sharing.
Yes.
It's it's
I
that.
can't
It's
remember
that.
who that player was that said he got a new deal. Staying at the school and it said, hey, he got a new deal. It's free agency, which is fine,
Yeah.
but there's got to be some kind of cap, some kind of you got to regulate it somehow because it is getting ridiculous.
Well, and you're gonna see, and I know we can talk about it when we talk about the CFP rankings, and this is absolutely no shade on SMU. Like that's not what I want this to come off as at all. But we're seeing so much parity, and we're seeing that you could potentially go to a smaller school. You could go to a school that doesn't play a bunch of Power Five schools necessarily, and you can get NIL money and you can still make the CFP. You're probably not going to get injured as much because you're not going up against a 300-pound offensive lineman. You're not going up against, a ton of All-Americans, and you still get all the benefits. So, I mean, for someone like Arkansas that already has to compete with a Texas A&M for recruiting, maybe even an LSU if you want to throw that in there, and then you have this new era of football where you could go to an SMU, you could go to a smaller school, you can still get to a CFP playoff. Why injure yourself? Why risk it?
Clemson does it every year. Why do you think they schedule two SEC teams every single year? And it's not a Kentucky. It's not a Florida. It is the echelon. They had a home and they're doing home and homes. You got to go way back. They started with Alabama. Then they played Auburn. Then it was LSU. Then it was Texas A&M. Then Georgia. You have all these teams but they know going in, they have to do that. And South Carolina, because they knew that it's either Florida. They know because that was back when it was 4 teams.
Right.
They can't just skate in on an ACC schedule because look at the years that they won the national championship. One year they lost to Syracuse and one year they lost to Pitt. If they didn't have those wins to back that up, they would have been a one-loss ACC champion or whatever, and they would have not got in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, on the Arkansas side, I want to do a two-part coaching question. You've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but I obviously we see Sam Pittman is sticking around. So my first question is he on thin ice already next season? Sounds like he probably is. And then the second part of the question is it realistic to assume that Bobby Petrino will stick around? I know we've heard rumors just swirling around about possible head coaching jobs for him as well. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think they're going to give it one more run. I think they're going to see what goes on with this revenue sharing. They're going to hang their hats on one more year because, I mean, if you're losing as much as they are, I mean, you're really in a worst case scenario. I mean, if you do bring in a new coaching staff, how much worse can it get? And we've heard that before, and then we got Chad Morris. So, it's one of those situations where do you give him another year to develop the offense to where he can pass it along to somebody else and take the head coaching job? Because now you look at him. I thought that Barry Odom would never be a head coach again. He's at UNLV, now Purdue. I didn't think he would even leave Sam Pittman because that was his first call. Now you got Bobby Petrino. You're like, oh, he does not want to be a head coach. Well, he was spotted by somebody in a Charlotte airport that circulated around. And I know it was legit because I got actually DM'd from the person who took the picture. Said, hey, look, I took that. Can you give me credit? Sure enough, no problem. So it was actually an Arkansas fan who, there's direct flights out of XNA Little Rock to Charlotte all day long. So it's one of the things that, yes, they're going to try to run this back, but I already think he's on thin ice. Yeah. But when you hear him speak, him saying he's never been worried about his job. I think we talked about this the last time we were on. Mm-hmm. He sits there and says he's never been worried about his job. Well, to me, that's scary. Then you have all the other things going on. So really, I think he is, but when it comes to him and her and Yurchek, I don't know what their relationship is. We don't know technically how thin that ice is, or it might just be sturdy as ever. And, as long as you beat one SEC team, ranked team, you're going to be good for another year.
Yeah, I guess I get it a little bit. Like as a coach, you don't want that to be the narrative that's controlling everything. You want the perception to be that everything's good and you want to just focus on your job and do your
Hmm.
job. You don't want all this distraction. So I get it from that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, from Arkansas fans' perspective, you want things to happen and happen now. Matt, what do
Yeah,
you?
but I was gonna say, I mean, all you have to do is look around the conference. I mean, look at the success Vanderbilt had this semester or
Yeah,
this season.
Yeah.
Like they came out of nowhere. We were expecting them to be absolute dog water, and they turned out to be a pretty decent Vandy team with some pretty big wins under their belt.
I mean,
and
same
we're
for
real close
Florida.
to beating Texas
Yes,
too.
Hmm.
same thing for Florida. We thought Florida was going to be awful, and then they went in the portal, got some people, managed to put together a squad, and managed to get 7 wins out of one of the hardest schedules in the country.
Yeah.
Like if you're an Arkansas fan, you kind of have to look at the success of some of these other schools that are roughly on the same tier, and you kind of have to be like, well, if they can do it, why can't we?
Sure. Yeah.
Look
And
at
you got to look
Indiana.
at a place like
And
to
Indiana's another
me,
great example.
like a Kentucky, where Kentucky's had a coach, they've invested in him, they've had some decent seasons, but you started to see an immense regression,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
right? And they've gone in the portal. They picked up Brock Vandergrift, they've picked up other guys, and it's just not working. So like, what is that keystone factor that's there that's
You can
still
just see
going
them
into the
falling
next
behind
season? I mean,
Kentucky.
it's kind of like what Porter was saying. I immediately think of, that that like college girl who is like, I don't understand why the boys are so mean to me and why we broke up. And then you like watch her and it's like, because you're insane. It's you. It's you. Yeah, you can keep bringing in nice guy after
Oh my
nice
God.
guy, but you're
Yep.
insane. You're
Right.
the same factor in every relationship. Who is up for
Becky, we
Arkansas?
need you to get it together, sweetheart. We need you to do better. Becky,
So,
please.
Stop
Jesse,
texting.
if I may, are you saying that the crazy girl in this situation is Stoops or who?
To me, it might
Or
be
is
Stoops.
is
I
it
don't know.
higher
I
than
don't know
that?
enough about the Kentucky AD. I don't know enough about Arkansas's AD, but I think there's something to it. If there is like a systemic issue, a lot of times it comes from the leadership, right? Like
Yeah.
they set the tone, they set the culture.
Well,
And if it's
look at
not
Eli
changing-
Drinkowitz. I mean, you're
oh,
Mississippi State. Oh, stop or I'll score again. Really, you're going to pick on
Oh,
the worst
yeah.
team in the conference. I mean, and he is
It's on brand though.
arrogant prick, and we can go back
their
and
coach died.
the
I
thing.
mean,
Yeah.
come on, Eli.
Exactly.
He died.
he has zero chill, and he is not welcome on the podcast. I'm making an executive decision. If Drinky ever DM'd you, Wes, and said, "Hey, listen, I'd love to come on and talk football," you need to be like, "Hell no!"
You're
Fortson
saying I'm
will
going
go
to have
nuclear.
to circle the wagons and tell him no.
Yeah.
This is-
No, not on Toughness Tuesday. It's going to be Small Dick
Yeah.
Saturday. That's what we're going to call that. I can't stand that
Is
son
that
of a gun.
is that the name of the episode? I'm just-
Let's do it.
anyway,
Let's do that. I can roll with it.
anyway, now let's get to the.
I got to stop. My mom told me she listens to the show a lot. I just said the thing I got in trouble for over Thanksgiving again. So anyway,
Watch
let's
your
move
mouth. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff here. So, reaction to the final CFP rankings. Obviously, much has been said about that, but Porter, what is your take on how things shook out in the end?
I love the meltdown of the SEC right now.
I think we all subliminally. I think everybody's
I
kind of
am-
happy with it.
Loving it. Because there's so many people okay, it's Michael Scott, and it's happening. Nobody knows what's going on. You want a playoff, you expand the playoff, you get 12 team playoff, and then you only get 3 teams in. You're scatterbrained. You're not used to this, and everybody keeps on going after the same argument of we need to stop doing our out of conference schedule. What are we talking about? If that's not what got you out, you let Vandy score 40 on you.
Right.
You sat there and gave up, or you only scored 200 yards against OU, 3 points.
Yeah.
Both of them are bowl eligible thanks to Bama, and we're talking about we need to, and it's just everybody outside the SEC is like, well, just take Mercer off the schedule, take Roast Beef State off the schedule for next season, because if you look at their schedules, it's always either a home and home in the Georgia Dome, or we're going to go to USC when they haven't been relevant in 10 years. There's a lot of these schools in the SEC. It's not just Bama. There's a lot of them that do it, but they've always stood on our schedule is strong enough. Now there's a chink in the armor.
Yeah.
And why do you think Saban left? This NIL, his biggest chink on the armor is the SEC schools. Look at Arizona State. Look at Indiana. Look at SMU. Look at Vandy. Look at all these other schools, and look at Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
You can go anywhere now and be a viral sensation because of the internet, social media, and there's 12 teams. It's not a 4-team where you're bottlenecked in and you have to go to the SEC to get into the college football playoff anymore.
Right.
But also everybody wants to down, well, who did Arizona State play? Who did Indiana play? You're looking at the name on the front and you're not looking at the teams that are playing. We know good as well as anybody. It don't matter if you play an ACC schedule, a Big 12, Pac-12, going 11-1, 10-2 is hard, no matter who you play. So from that aspect of it, I loved it because I got to rag on South Carolina. Hey, cool for being state champs. We're going to go to the college football playoff. Cool. But when you look at it, if it wasn't for Syracuse beating Miami, Clemson does not have the chance to go into this. And then guess what? SMU's in, Bama's in. And the fact that there was a 3-loss team being considered, that shows you they were forced. They could, if that tells you Bama didn't get in, they could not put them in because they could not find any single argument to put them in, or they would have. Guarantee you, if there would have been some kind of glimmer of hope, you take Vandy and you replace that with an LSU, Bama's in.
Right.
You take one of those bad losses away and you swap it out for a good win, or it's not a 24-3. You lose in the last second, 56-yard field goal.
Sure. Yeah.
They're in.
Yeah.
So if they just really take a step back and look at really what happened, that's the reason why the teams got in. Now, if you want to talk about the seeding and go into that, yeah, we can definitely discuss that.
Yeah, and I think, well, so I know you mentioned South Carolina just a little bit ago, but honestly, I think they might be the scariest team that didn't make it, simply just because of the second half of the season that they had and as strong as they looked. Now, I know that some other things happened and really kind of prevented them from making it down the stretch, but in terms of a team that I don't want to play now, they're pretty high up on that list.
Yeah, Sellers is a dog. He's one of those that's coming into his own, and if he really learns to get on his feet and throw and not just rely on his legs, he is going to be dangerous. And the kid's a freshman, I believe. So he's got many years to get better. And but a lot of you don't want to see any SEC team in the college football playoff. If they would have, who would have wanted Bama? Put them up against anybody. Put Georgia, Tennessee. Hell, put LSU in there. You put them against some of these teams in the field. That was my gripe. Ole Miss. Yes, on paper. Yeah, but if we're going to do that, we might as well just make it a SEC tournament
Right.
and then crown their own champion, because that's what realistically SEC fans want. And I know it's weird, my whole dynamic, but I live it, see it from two different angles. Arkansas side, Clemson side, but they put the work in, but you can't discredit what others done because you made this bed. You wanted OU Texas. You wanted an expanded playoff. You're going and trying to strike a deal with the Big Ten to get 4 automatic bids. How can you sit there and gripe about what others get when you're wanting 4 automatic bids each? The hypocrisy of how that goes, if you really look at what everybody's saying, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Matt, did you have something for Porter? I saw you were...
I want to go on record as stating I don't think Lenora Sellers is going to be wearing a Carolina uniform next year.
They have no NIL.
I have a sneaking suspicion someone is going to come after him hard and back up the truck. I don't think he's going to be at Carolina next year. I wanted to go ahead and put that in the ether so that way everybody was aware of what I thought. I mean, it didn't me either, but I'll be shocked if he's still wearing
Matt
black.
Matt wanted to say you heard it here first.
Yeah, you did hear it here first.
So You talked about seeding a little bit, and I want to ask you, Porter, because I know what Matt's going to say, but did they get the Tennessee, Ohio State, who's going to host that game? Did they get it right?
No.
Yes!
Okay.
Yes! Thank you, Porter.
You can't tell me that Arizona State and Boise State deserved a top 4 seed. If you're going to go, all right, we're doing the best of 12. We're going to go 12 teams, and we're going to seed those teams off the teams that we're in. Because look what happened to Clemson. I'm lucky to be in. We're lucky to be in.
Mhm.
They did us no favors by giving us a 12 seed. But that's where they deserve. They got in on the skin
Sure.
of their teeth. You give them the last seed.
Right.
That's how I see it. So you can't sit there and tell me that if you want to look at this draw, I know NCAA basketball does the same thing when you're trying to you're trying to seed 64 teams and try to make it fair and even. But when you got 12 and you look at this, you can't tell me that when you're talking about strength of schedule and all this stuff matters, and look how you seeded the top 4. I don't know. I don't know how I would seed it without looking at the bracket, but you
Right.
talk about Tennessee, but look, I mean, Joe Clapp makes a good point. You're 13-0, you're number 1 seed, and you have to play the winner of Tennessee and Ohio State. Then you got
Right.
Penn State, or the winner of Texas Clemson gets to go Arizona State. You know, there is easy pass if people get hot at the right time.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Now, real quick, I did want to ask this because we've talked about it in the past week or two, but would you prefer to see just a straight up 1 through 12? Obviously, maybe not this time as a Clemson fan, but in general, would you like to see a straight up 1 through 12 as opposed to the conference champions being granted that first round bye?
No, because I think you still need to give your champions. You still got to give them a bid.
Yeah.
I mean, because look, I know how things shake out, but they played their way in. You know what I'm saying? They weren't
Right.
handed. It's not like because you look at Texas. Did they really earn a chance to go to the SEC championship game? Look how many teams they skated around and didn't have to play. You know, there's other teams that did not have to play. SMU was the same way.
Right.
You can't say, well, look at Indiana and Arizona State. They or SMU. They didn't play anybody. You
Right.
have Texas sitting at a 2 seed that has no top 25 wins. When is the last time that's ever happened in the SEC?
Right. And with
I don't think
conferences
it's ever
being so
happened.
big now, it's hard for everybody to play each other.
Yeah.
There's not going to be comparable resumes. It's
It
difficult.
wouldn't be if they'd take some of the FCS teams off the schedule.
Yeah, that's true. Have more
Yeah.
conference games. They're not willing to do that just yet, though.
I'm just telling you that'd be one way to remedy that particular issue.
Well, and I know, like, let's look at South Carolina and Clemson. They have to play an in-state FCS school for the money reasons. There's some state, it's in their state legislature that they have to give Furman, Citadel, they have to
Right.
play them every year because they are public institutions and it helps the other institutions out. Yes. So that's why you see South Carolina playing the Citadel and Clemson playing Furman or whoever, because it's in the state legislature that they have to play those teams. So, but when you're playing Mercer, Morehead State, and then you're going out, oh, we played Power 5, but it's Wyoming or somebody like that, you're not helping your case out when you're scheduling all these. And I know there's things when these schedules are 7. I think they need to do away with that too. Stop making these schedules 7, 8 years out, 10 years out.
Right.
Something more of a 2-3 year where you know that we're going to try to. We know Georgia's up and coming, and let's say Iowa's on the verge. You know, in 2 years that's going to be a dog game. Go ahead and schedule that in 2 years and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, so you talked about the paths that different teams have and potential ease that some of these teams have. What do you think about Clemson's chances against, first of all, Texas and then Arizona State, possibly if they move beyond and beyond that? How are you feeling as a Clemson fan?
Man, I don't know. It all goes because I've seen them struggle against elite defenses. In the last 2 times they played Georgia, you know, you look at how one, you're going up against elite defenses, but 2, you're pissing games away. You look at the South Carolina game, you had that in the bag, you let them come at 2. Right. I mean, the last 2 drives, you let them convert on 3rd and longs. SMU, if it wasn't for a 56-yarder, you're in overtime and potentially out. You can't go up 21-7 with 9 minutes left in the first quarter or 3 minutes left in the first quarter when everybody's sitting there saying you're dog walking SMU and then you let them come back. That's what scares me. But also you got Dabo who's hung his hat on. He doesn't need NIL. Well, now you just gave him some armor. I made the CFP and
Right.
man of God, I didn't need the NIL portal. That's what irritated me because I want him to embrace it. And now
Yeah.
he gets to sit there and put that CFP banner up without using the portal or having an NIL, but the guy makes $9 million a year.
That's an interesting point because, like you said, I'm sure he's very pleased with himself on that. But in reality, in the long run, it may be more beneficial to his coaching career to be forced, as you said, to embrace NIL. But for now, he's probably not going to do that.
Oh, he done bought himself 2-3 more years. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of them things. And if you now with the 12 team, who else in the ACC? I mean, we don't know what SMU is going to do. What if Rhett Lashley leaves next year, not coming into next year, but what if he gets a buyout? You never know. This NIL coaching carousel portal, it is so insane because it's on both sides. You have two fires, the player fire and the coach fire. And it's just, it's too much. Like today was overwhelming and it wasn't even noon yet.
I bet. Yeah, I can only imagine. That's really all the questions that I had. Jesse or Matt, did y'all have anything for Porter or for the CFP or anything else?
I mean, my questions are going to come after this first Clemson Texas game.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
they worry me because, I mean, again, Texas is really good defensively, and it's in Austin. Look, you're not playing in Atlanta. You're not playing in Charlotte. You're not playing in Jacksonville. You're playing in Austin, Texas. And if you don't think they're not going to be ready,
Oh, they're going to be juiced up.
After losing to Georgia.
Oh, they're going to be ready.
I think that's what's got me so excited about this college football playoff is the fact that you're going to be for the first time having a playoff setting at a home field advantage.
Oh man, I love it.
I think
Neyland's going to be great. Oh wait.
Oh, I know. When I seen the bracket, it had it flipped upside down. It drove me nuts.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I didn't anticipate anything but that. I mean, the lead, I talked about it earlier, but the lead guy for the CFP is the Michigan AD. You don't think he's wanting the Big Ten to look good? Come on.
Oh, yeah. Well, the favorites, and like I said, Big Ten and the SEC are trying to make it to where it's their playoff. But you know what? Every other conference has a heads up. If I am seeing this, you don't think they are. They need to adjust to the times, or you're going to be left out. There's going to be 4-4, and then there's going to be 4 more teams amongst all the rest of the conferences to fill these gaps. So either adjust or you're going to be sitting in an NIT or you're going to be going to the Asperella Bowl or whatever it is, so.
It's always my favorite one. It's just a great name. So, well,
the
cool.
ReliaQuest Bowl is going to be great.
Yeah.
Second year in a row, y'all are playing Michigan.
You get to have revenge on Michigan, right?
That's right. That's right.
7-5.
I heard
7-5
Connor
Michigan.
Stallions is coaching that game. Celebrity guest speaker.
The return.
Oh my God, nothing would make me happier.
Right. Well, Porter, I know you told us last time, but just for anybody who this is their first time listening, where can people find y'all on the social medias?
Just go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, The Hog Talk, HAWG for legal reasons, but that's where we're at. We go live every Sunday at 6 and Thursday at 6. So, and this has been fun for us because when it's very bad or very good, you have the same results. Everybody tunes in. So it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks when it comes to this portal stuff. We're going to the Liberty Bowl playing Texas Tech. We've already got 20 players out. So it's I'm pretty sure you could sit there and watch the game from the 50-yard line. So there's not going to be too many people watching, but I think there might be more fans than players. So you never know.
Right. That's the hope. So
Easy Christmas present tickets to buy.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Perfect.
Stocking stuffers. You
Perfect.
have wasn't it? I always pick on South Carolina on this. Didn't they have discount tickets at Academy or something like that? Their football tickets. I want to say they did, and
I feel like that might have been the case. Yeah.
I I did hear something this week that made me laugh about tickets. So I'm currently in Philadelphia. Temple University is right down the street. And somebody that I work with, they were a student during the pandemic and they were part of a class action lawsuit. So somebody was suing the university because they said that their education in 2020 was not the same as what, they were paying for essentially, right? Like they paid to be in person.
Yes.
And the caliber of education that they got was not what the tuition paid for. And they won because Temple decided to settle outside of court. Regardless, Temple's settlement said, we'll either pay you, and they had not a couple million, but they had several $1,000,000 that they would have to disseminate across everybody in the class action, which is going to be like $300. Or you could opt in to get 2 seasons worth of comped Temple football tickets.
Nobody wants that.
Man,
Nobody
that Temple
wants
UMass game, I would be there.
I love the creativity.
Temple UMass.
I was like, I think they're already giving those away outside of the class action lawsuit, so I don't know.
But I applaud their creativity on how to handle that, and
it was hilarious to me that it was like, we'll pay you, or you can get 2 season tickets for 2 years.
They're gonna start putting Temple tickets in like Happy Meals, like
there you go,
from McDonald's or something.
At this point,
right.
Like kid opens it up. I wanted a toy. What is this ticket?
What's that?
They had South Carolina tickets at Costco, 2 for $89.
Oh, love it.
Keep on blaming.
Now that's
again. They also handed out rings for 11 wins. I think I said that the last time, but I'll poke on that. But
I mean, Drinky bought the Missouri football team shirts for getting bowl eligible. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. But
that good luck.
But he only had to hand out 4 because everybody else is, they got the opt-out eligible T-shirts.
That's right. I hear you.
So, I appreciate y'all having me on again. It's always fun to talk with y'all. And, I knew this would be, as soon as this all come about, I hit him up and said, I've got to join y'all and discuss thoughts and how y'all feel about good old Dabo's just getting his way in. He's got the offering plate ready,
Absolutely. And we're definitely looking forward to what you had to say, and looking forward to seeing what you got to say after this. Obviously, big games coming up, so good stuff coming up. So, Porter, it's always a pleasure, man.
Yes, sir. Always. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Porter.
Going.
Thanks, Porter.
All right. Always a blast talking to Porter. He's got great points of view. He's a funny guy. So
his setup for his area he broadcasts from makes me a little jealous. I'm
top
not
tier. Top tier.
Because if you look behind me, you'll see Neyland Stadium. But if I took that down, it's not near as impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I think I got some like cardboard boxes from, Christmas presents behind me or something. Yeah.
I have a completely packed bedroom. Just moving boxes.
It's your room of shame. Every house has got a room of shame, Jesse.
No, I'm literally packing to move across the country in 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. But we're excited because you'll be closer. So woohoo.
Oh, this is news to me. We'll discuss off air.
Moving to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where the players play, I've been told. So.
Also where the players sit in traffic.
Yeah.
That's more accurate, actually. So obviously we don't have any predictions. We'll have those next show for the bowls. Let me go ahead and get us out of here. If you would like to contact us, please email us at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We are at Pigskins and Pageantry on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We are at PPSEC Podcast on Twitter. And don't forget, we're available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment, subscribe, and review. We'd love those 5 stars to increase our visibility and have a greater chance of having wonderful conversations with people like yourselves. Matt, did you have something to add? You just
No,
you were going to say it's
X.
Twitter, Wes.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance. So.
And I said Twitter. I didn't say X this time. So.
You knew what I meant.
Exactly. I knew. I try to switch it up every week and see.
Just end the show, Wes. Good God.
This is Wes. Until next time, go Dogs.
Who doesn't love basketball season? I mean, we're ranked in the top 10. It's fine. Go Nados. Roll Tide.
Hey, time to saddle up, boys. Beat Ohio State. Woo! Go Balls.